Thank you, Chairwoman and Ranking Member, for holding this important hearing. I have an opening statement. I'll go ahead and submit for the record.
Without objection.
Okay, thank you. So we get right to the questions here. Mr. Cruz, you in your testimony, I was struck. You mentioned that the expanding the scope of the CWA would sweep many forestry activities under its regulations. I have Allegheny National Forest in my district, 513,000 acres. It's an economic engine, or it has been. Could you elaborate on specifically how forestry might be affected?
Well, yes, sir. I think if we take the word navigable out, if the word navigable were taken out of the Clean Water Act, that is going to have, in my judgment, a serious impact on any type of livestock, row crop, or forestry operation, because currently, if you take a 100-acre tract of timber, and you're going to find, after a rain, for example, you're going to find standing water in areas of that timber that goes away in a day or two. Currently, that is, as you know, not under the jurisdiction of the Corps of Engineers and EPA. If the word navigable is removed, it will become that. And I think Mr. Pebley made a really good point a while ago, and it would apply to forestry. If you're going about your business and all of a sudden you discover water in a place that you didn't realize it was going to be, you have a serious problem on your hands. And if the word navigable is not in there. And don't get me wrong, I don't think any of us would say the Clean Water Act's perfect with the word navigable in. We're just saying it would be really scary if it were not in there.
A whole lot worse. I mean, the A&F, we have issues now with, as I think Mr. Chilton described, radical environmentalists who do nuisance lawsuits for different reasons. Most recently, we had the Sierra Club and some others that shut down oil and natural gas drilling on presumed environmental issues that really weren't out there. And so, what's your impression in terms of the standing water? Then it seems like a mud puddle then would provide an excellent motivation for radical environmentalists to file nuisance lawsuits that would just wreak havoc on our economy.
Absolutely, without question. And a small ditch, a little stream, any water. Someone mentioned a while ago gutters. I mean, any place water exists without the word navigable, I mean, theoretically and I think practically, the Corps and the EPA are going to try to regulate it.
Yeah, and not a question, but an observation, Mr. Choden, you talked about the government paying these lawsuits. That's what happened in my congressional district with that forest. The Forest Service, no court handled the case, and the Forest Service voluntarily paid all the court costs for the Sierra Club. Mr. Gray, good to see you again. You're all over the place, and that's a good thing. Dairy farmers, as you know, in both my home state of Pennsylvania and nationally, are severely struggling. It seems to me that changing the definition will only cause additional unnecessary costs to an already struggling industry. Would you agree with that statement? And where do you see those costs? What will those costs do to our dairy farmers? That on the average, I think they have not large operations, about 125 heads, something like that.
Right. Well, I agree absolutely. I mean, I don't know how they'd pay for litigation costs today. They can't pay their feed bills. We've got farmers in the Northeast that are using generators to run their farms today because their electricity has been cut off. That's what the situation is. I can't imagine what a dairy farmer would do if they were litigated by a third party on a waterway. They wouldn't be able to deal with it because the money just isn't there. So it'd have a huge economic impact, particularly right now.
Now, how about the mitigation costs? Even if you don't get a frivolous lawsuit, you have permitting costs. I heard consultant costs,
right,
and mitigation costs.
It's just something that they couldn't pay for right now, and so that would just add undue economic burden.
Can you we don't have much time left. Can we give me some brief, specific examples of how changing the definition would affect dairy farmers in particular?
Well, changing it, yes. I added a couple of quick things before, and that is in ditches and in sod waterways in places where we normally do conservation practices on the land so that we can get better drainage and so forth. Changing that definition, taking navigable out of there, could affect those kind of conservation practices, which are done to reduce soil erosion, nutrient runoff, and yet they could become expanded jurisdiction over those kind of practices in lands of that type.
Time is expired.